I mean, coming back to your point about when they're going to have their AGM, that would probably be a good point to raise there.
We know.
Okay.
That's how we know it's going to be sometime in the summer.
It slides further into.
I mean, it's an interesting
sunset.
It's an interesting exercise to look at other CCGs and see, because some have published all of their minutes, all of their notes, all of their interests, and it feels open. I mean, you never really know, and others really haven't done.
And many of their meetings are open to the public also.
If they have.
Their board meetings, yes. So I mean, people can attend, and I think there is some opportunity to table questions.
I was going to come back on that because I like John's thing about corporate action, but as a little resident of decades here, I've never seen a notice in public about when their meetings take place. It seems to be a information mechanism.
You have to know.
You have to
know
how to find out. Therefore, corporate action is a lovely idea, but practice.
I mean, that's something definitely Healthwatch can take to the CCG and say you need to be more open about when your meetings are and how people can go along and
Could you
get
take
involved.
that on behalf of at least some of us, and perhaps all of us?
Yeah, that would be a good point to take.
Yes.
Can I just ask another question? I mean, again, I think there's an awful lot in this that's very, very exciting, and a lot of the talk about moving people out of hospitals into the community and having some sort of integrated support system obviously makes sense. But I did notice that something you mentioned several times was cost efficiency or financial outcomes, and you didn't actually talk about medical outcomes. Now, I know that's not a criticism, but there is a sense in which one of the issues is, say this proves wonderfully successful, that the medical outcomes look really great, the patients are whoopee, I start feeling I've got control over my own health again, I understand what's going on. But what are the funding commitments to this from NHS England and from North West London?
Well, at the moment there aren't.
Charing Cross Hospital.
The commitment is to work with the financial envelope. I think both those organisations, I can't really speak for either of them very confidently, but certainly not for NHS England, is to work within the financial envelopes that are set, at higher levels, as it were.
But that has to be a key issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Something like this is going to.
I mean, I don't know whether it's anything of a. I don't think it's in any way helpful, but of course, clinical outcomes are being measured better now than they've ever been measured before. And I think that's true. That's genuinely true. We have good, or improving anyway, methods of collecting clinical data. And I think doctors will always do quite a good job of pointing out if clinical outcomes are falling because they're not getting invested in well enough. And I think that's reflected often in the media. It seems quite easy for medical professionals to get their stories in the newspapers about care being undermined through lack of funding. So it's not really an answer, except that the information is available, and the advocacy group, and arguably is the General Medical Council and the BMA. There are various.
And you've got your fingers crossed.
It has ever been thus to some extent, hasn't it? We think what we're doing here is the right thing to be doing, and we think we're doing some things that will really make a difference. And I personally, for what it's worth, believe that things don't work efficiently. There are some things that don't work efficiently, and they're not good either. I'm going to use the same example because it's the one that most people can relate to, because it's happened so often where you want to be somewhere else but you're not allowed to be there, and instead you're costing the whole system quite a lot more money because you stay in a hospital, or because you've been allowed to deteriorate, and then suddenly what could have been done, by a little bit of Sam's story, which I mentioned before, which is a nice video, sort of is a real story that you believe, because what happens is this chap, this imaginary little cartoon guy, deteriorates very, very quickly because nobody's looking out for him. And the next thing you know, he's in hospital. And I know that happens. It's happened to people I know. But it could be stopped quite easily if somebody was being more active in looking out for that person. There are some other sort of community support. And let's not be silly about it. Some of that is about third sector thing, and politically, whatever you think about that. It could be charity helping out where perhaps we prefer it to the NHS. There are all sorts of ways of exploring that. But the net result for the individual at the centre of care is that they don't end up in hospital really, really ill. They end up living in their own home with some support that probably ends up costing less as it happens, but you know, the key thing isn't that it costs less.